President Obama's embrace of Senator Arlen Specter as a Democrat now official in our fourth story on the countdown tonight. Aside from tonight's news conference, the president welcomed Mr. Specter at the White House this morning. And among Republicans, precious few, read one, publicly expressing much interest in learning from Specter's defection. The president made clear he understood Senator Specter's assertion that he will not be an automatic 60th vote. He mentioned again in the news conference this evening. But the president also focused on the obvious benefits of the senator's switch.
I do think that having Arlen Specter in the Democratic caucus will liberate him to cooperate on critical issues like health care, like infrastructure and job creation. I think the vote on the Recovery Act was a classic example. Ultimately, he thought that was the right thing to do, and he was fiercely berated within his own party at the time.
That, obviously, the president at the news conference tonight. Senator Specter this morning pointedly extending his hand as well.
I do think, Mr. President, that I can be of assistance. You have projected the administration that I feel very comfortable with.
And White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs today left no doubt that the president would campaign and raise money for Senator Specter if asked. As for the Republicans, out of those pretending not to care about Specter's departure, there was one exception, Senator Olympia Snowe of Maine, writing in the op-ed pages of the New York Times where she clearly disagreed with the party line that Specter's loss was a matter of local politics, quoting, "The political environment that has made it inhospitable for a moderate Republican in Pennsylvania is a microcosm of a deeper, more pervasive problem that places our party in jeopardy nationwide. There is no plausible scenario under which Republicans can grow into a majority while shrinking our ideological confines and continuing to retract into a regional party." But the former House Speaker Newt Gingrich today voiced what seems to be a sentiment straight from boss Limbaugh, quoting, "It clarifies the two parties. In the long run, it may actually change the whole dynamic of 2010 and 2012. He might be right, but perhaps not in ways he suspects. Chris Matthews joins me now from Burbank. Chris, good evening.
Good evening to you, Keith.
The Democrats' side, as personified by the president, something from the sports world here about this change in parties for Specter. Don't gloat, don't celebrate, act like you've been in the end zone before.
Well, you have to wonder what the Democrats gain here, because if Specter's right and he couldn't possibly win the Republican primary next year, the Democrats would have had that seat for the asking. So why did they want to turn over his seat to somebody who's been a Republican for all these years if they could have had it? So if Specter's right and he's finished as a Republican, the Democrats would have gotten that seat automatically. I wonder why they're willing to give so much away to have the president say he'll fight Joe Sestak, a good Democrat, or Pat Murphy or someone like that, or Allison Schwartz or Neil or Josh Shapiro, any one of the candidates that could have ran for that nomination. Why is he saying to them, I'm going to fight you on behalf of Arlen Specter? It's a hell of a good deal for Arlen. I guess I don't figure out what the good deal is for the country unless this president has decided he needs Arlen's vote for health care, because health care is the most important. It is to me, by the way, a very important issue, if not the most important. And he needs that vote this year. And if Arlen stayed in the Republican Party, if he's forced to stay over there, he wouldn't have gotten that health care vote, because Arlen would have been kissing up to people like Bob Asher, the Republican bosses in Pennsylvania, between now and next April. So it was a short-term gain. It's sort of like a draft pick they traded for or gave away. They gave away a future younger senator to get a current one who would vote their way in the short run.
For a Pennsylvanian to be named later. But besides that vote, as you suggest, on health care, which would be, the great insight here, that's probably what this is about in the short term anyway.
That's what the president said tonight. He said that tonight.
Is there anything else they could be getting out of Specter in the short term that could be added onto that list?
No, I think it's an all game for him to get the president to say he's going to endorse you, to get Democratic Party money, to get the Democratic organization in Pennsylvania, to get Eddie Rendell, the rest. He got everything. He got, apparently, seniority. He's going to be chairman of appropriations or something like that in a year and a half. So he got everything on the table. I thought there was real news tonight, Keith, that I don't think anybody's grabbed onto. One is, and these are questions that would come up if you had more follow-up. He wouldn't answer the question, the president, as to what he would do in extremis. He was asked, what would you do if there was an imminent threat and you had somebody in captivity and you had to decide whether to grill him, somebody you caught in the middle of an operation, for example? He didn't answer that. He did allude to something very interesting. He said, while you pointed out that Pakistan, the most dangerous country in the world, is fragile, he said that we have some kind of a confidence level. Did you hear that?
Yes.
On their nuclear weapons. Somehow we've got some kind of a deal, some fence operation, where we've fenced that off, and we know we can go directly to some generals, and that's going to be protected no matter what happens to the government over there. You mean even if the Taliban overthrows the government in Islamabad, we've got some deal at the last minute where they're going to protect those weapons from the crazies? I thought that was fascinating.
Well, you know what he's...
I think the other thing is yeah, go ahead.
But to that point, he said the military of Pakistan understands how important those it was as if that answer were directly meant for 16 generals in Islamabad.
Yeah, like he has some sort of side deal with the brass over there that if anything happens, what are they going to FedEx all the weapons to us at the last minute, bury them, blow them up? How do they keep them out of the hands of a government that's about to take over the Capitol? I think that's a fascinating revelation. I thought tonight he offered some other things. The issue of abortion. On a number of fronts, he's obviously looked at his polling, and he wants to soften his image. He doesn't want to look like too big a government guy, like I want to run all these corporations for automotives and et cetera, banking. He really wants to look like he's really pushing back from that. He wants to be very pro-military. He made a big point of that. He's very pro-military. He wants to lessen the harshness of the reputation he's getting by the people complaining about the Notre Dame speech, that he's too pro-choice. He wants to pull back from that by offering up the story that I didn't air before, that there's a task force and a domestic policy council that's looking at ways to reduce, I think he meant to reduce the number of unwanted pregnancies, the number of situations that would lead a woman to make a decision about an abortion. I thought that's very positive. I thought it was interesting he dropped that out tonight.
And reaching out, by the way, reaching out to people from both camps, both the anti-abortion and the pro-choice camps, in somehow involving them in that task force.
Yeah, and I think that's what you hear from people like Ryan of Ohio, people on both sides who are pro-choice and pro-life, who on both sides would like to radically reduce the number of people who choose abortion because they didn't use birth control or they didn't practice whatever. They put themselves in a situation where abortion was an option when a lot of people obviously don't want to be in that situation. So I think that it's very interesting that he was doing that. It was a very subtle message to the pro-life community, I think.
Chris Matthews, who not only brings you a special post-news conference edition of Hardball live tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, but also tonight graces the stage of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno on your local NBC station. Safe trip home, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Keith.